Good morning, everyone. I'm Jill Schimmel, Senior Director, World Languages with the Office of Multilingual Learners. I know a lot of you, some new faces, and I can't always remember exactly which school you're in. Some of you are starting new schools, but we're here to talk brief overview, broad strokes of the Seal of Biliteracy, which is a really exciting way to celebrate your students and your language courses. And then we're here to really think about how it directly aligns to work you may already be doing if you teach an AP course. And I'm so thrilled to be presenting with Marisol Manríquez-Weiner, like the expert on all things AP. Marisol?
Thank you. Thank you so much. So welcome everyone. First of all, it's really nice to see you. I'm also thrilled to be working with you. With Jill, we have collaborated like unofficially for many years, but now is the first time we say, let us do this together and put both brilliance together to see what's going on. And we are very, very pleased. I work for many years in AP for All, the Office of Equity and Access. And I'm a AP word language expert, and also the last years I've been doing a lot of PRSC and also vertical alignment from checkpoint A to checkpoint C, okay? And before I give the word to Jill, that is something personal, and maybe Jill I would really love to ask you if you can to have your cameras on, because as you know, as teachers, when you present, like reading the people, you see, what you need to do, when you need to, you can see what's going on. When they're all cameras black, you don't really understand what's going on. And so if you can do it, if you can, if not, don't worry. And that's it. Jill, todo tuyo.
Okay, thank you. It's great to see everyone's faces. And we'll say one more time, if you attended yesterday, this is the same information. So we know it's a busy time. We know it's the summer. It looks like a gorgeous day out there. If you attended yesterday and you're welcome to leave, we won't be offended because it is exactly the same. So thanks for being here. Hi, Katie. All these people I've emailed with in the past. So the objectives for today, want you to be able to articulate what is the New York State Seal of Biliteracy, and then think about how it connects to work that you already do as teachers at your school. I want you to be able to define the criteria and pathways for students to achieve the seal. This is not a full info session on the Seal of Biliteracy, but you'll get a brief overview and know where to go for more information. And then we want you to be able to articulate what are the requirements for the students to complete the culminating project, which is worth 2 out of 3 points that students need. We'll talk more about that, since in New York City, about 90% of our students do need to do the project on the world language side. So we really want to help you see connections to the existing work you do with your students and the rigor of the courses you already teach. So by show of reactions, let us know. Well, in a minute, I'll tell you to put your reactions on, but if your school already offers the Seal of Biliteracy, you'll put up that exciting celebratory thing. Sorry, there's noise out there. If you thumbs up, if you know your students will benefit and you're excited to be here and make it happen. Clapping, hakushu, aplauso, if you don't know about the seal yet, but you teach AP or you teach home language arts. And then if you don't know anything about either of them. So please put your reactions on. Who's in the group today? Okay, we see some claps. So your AP teachers, maybe home language arts teachers, and you're here to learn. That's awesome. Okay, thanks. Okay, so again, we'll do a very brief overview of this. Who knows what the seal is? Open mic. Don't be shy. What do we know about the Seal of Biliteracy?
Solo uno a la vez. No se peleen.
What if you don't really know much and you're just here to learn?
Yes, that's fine. We have some folks who are experienced. Yadira did it for the first time this year. Anyone? Okay. We're here to learn. It is a diploma endorsement. It is an absolute honor. It's a graduation distinction for students. It's a national initiative, all 50 states, including South Dakota, finally. South Dakota was the last one. But all states have a Seal of Biliteracy program as a way to recognize high school graduates who have a high level of proficiency in English and another language. And in order to achieve the Seal of Biliteracy, you'll see throughout that students need to show that they can listen to the language, speak, read, and write in both of those languages. The intent of the seal is to absolutely affirm who our students are, the identities and the experiences that they bring into the classroom. Maybe it's a language they speak at home, a language they're learning. And then this on their diploma, on their transcript, identifies high school graduates that have language and biliteracy skills, right? They can't, not just speaking, but they're able to write an essay, and they have literacy skills that are going to serve them as employers look at their resumes, as they're being considered for internship. And there's so many stories of students who had a credential like the Seal of Biliteracy to show that they are proficient in 2 languages, and that helps them get a raise at their job. Starting as a nurse, they're making more than the monolingual nurses, things like that. It's providing universities with additional information. We've worked over the last year with the CUNY campuses. CUNY campuses will be awarding credit for prior learning to students who achieve the seal. A lot of private universities already do that. I'm working on creating a database to help you and to help your students, and really help the counselors understand how this can support students in college. And it's just affirming the value of diversity in a multilingual society. We actually just published our website, Multilingual NYC, and starting soon, there's going to be a Multilingual NYC Advisory Council, really to think about in New York City, how do we really celebrate all the languages? How do we elevate world language instruction, which is what you do every single day? So thank you for being here. And then also your school leaders often like to know that it helps, it positively impacts their college, career, and civics readiness score, which is a measurement they're measured on in state and federal measures, and citywide school quality reports as well. So each student who graduates with the Seal of Biliteracy is worth 2.0, where students without the seal and other endorsements are worth 1.
So just,
yeah.
I'm so sorry to ask, just a follow-up question. So if our school leaders do not have this already in place in our schools, is this a conversation that we have to have with them about it, or are they?
That's a good question, right? So, and you'll have access to these slides, and I'll put in one more time the link to ask questions and things like that. But yes, the big idea is that you're getting information here. You think about how you want to present it to your school leader in parallel, and we'll send a follow-up with all the information. The other piece is that each of your districts, right, has a superintendent, and each of your superintendents has designated a Seal of Biliteracy point person. So for example, yesterday we had Luke Jenka from CUNY Urban Assembly Schools, right? And he works with Superintendent Fred Walsh. So Luke and Superintendent Walsh are going to set up a Seal of Biliteracy info session in the fall for all school leaders. So at the very least, every one of your school leaders, maybe they send the principal, maybe an AP, will get information on the seal, but it's always great for you as a teacher to advocate for this. We're also trying to get more families to know about it. Families and students to ask when they're going to high schools, do you have a Seal of Biliteracy program? So we're trying at different levels, but since you're here, it would be great for you to take it back. I'll forward all the information. You can loop me in if the principal has questions, things like that. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So it builds on your students' assets, right? So 9 out of 10 employers are looking for multilingual employees, Spanish in highest demand. It's available to any graduating senior who needs to meet the Regents diploma, not just a local diploma, and then shows proficiency in English and another language. Let's take a minute. I do want you to hear from a student. We are trying to create more videos, testimonials from students. This is a nationwide initiative actually to really highlight our students. How are they using the seal? So I'll do the 1-minute version. Marisol, you'll let me know if you can hear it, okay?
Hola, ¿quieres?
Can you hear it?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, perfect, thanks.
Yo estoy leyendo Los Juegos del Hambre.
Los Juegos del Hambre. ¿Es verdad que eres un estudiante de bilingüe?
Sí,
¿Y cómo se siente ser bilingüe?
siento que es como una parte de mi identidad, porque es como si fuera que hay dos personas en mí que hablan diferentes idiomas, pero están en un solo cuerpo.
¿Y por qué es importante ser bilingüe?
Because it helps you to understand more yourself and open the world and more opportunities.
And you feel proud of being a bilingual student?
Yes.
Que de su tierra vive lejano, que recuerdo le hace llorar. Una canción.
Hola. Oh, esos son los estudiantes de bilingüe, ¿no?
Claro.
Ahí están ustedes, ¿verdad? ¿Y cómo se siente ser bilingüe?
Being bilingual for me is a treasure, un tesoro de nuestras culturas y de nuestros idiomas.
The webinar has started. Welcome, everyone. Sorry, 2 screens and lots of, okay, wait, sorry. So that's just one example. We're trying to, again, make more videos to have students share. And we're keeping in touch with students who graduated last year with the seal of biliteracy to kind of share how are they continuing in that language as majors and minors when they go to college. We would love all these students, our multilingual students, to become our next generation of language teachers. I think we all would benefit from that. And so your students are well on their way to meeting the seal requirements. So as the Office of Multilingual Learners, something we do every year in the fall, you'll probably get it by November. I can send you last year's file, is send you a file with every student in your school, their demographic information, their ELF status, and you can filter it in different ways. We're going to find out, we'll pull for you who has the 1A ELA Regents, who has these different things. And then over the school year, as you sign on, right, you'll set up a committee. 5 people at your school need to be part of the committee. And again, you do need a school leader to be part of that committee. The students at your school only have access to graduating with the seal of biliteracy if your school starts a program, right? So that's why it's important to take this information, talk to your colleagues, things like that. And then we have monthly collaborative sessions, and then your district point at your superintendent's office will have maybe set you up with a buddy, a more experienced school in your district, things like that. And we're here to talk about how your courses. And so CUNY did award the first credit. This has been something we've been working on for years, and we hope SUNY will follow as well. At the College of Staten Island did award 6 credits to a student. So they took their certificate. We also are sending a huge file to CUNY with all the students, about 2,000 who graduated with the seal this year. And so they will determine how that is used to give students credit and advanced standing. And so again, another representation of this, Spanish and Chinese are the most in demand by employers. And so just thank you for the work you do every day to teach your students languages. Some of you may teach AP English, even global. This project can be part of your course in any language, but we really appreciate you language teachers. Yeah, we talked about this. And any pathway you have, any schools here, anyone have a bilingual program at their school? Do you teach home language arts? No? Okay. So any model that you have can lead towards a seal. So the big idea is by the time students graduate, right, they can work on seal requirements at any point between 9th and 12th grade. by the time they graduate, they need to have 3 points on the English side and 3 points on the world language side. And so let's talk about how they demonstrate that proficiency. Criteria on the English side, right? And so I will say that we want to think about students who are going to be able to show proficiency on the English side. So you might have a lot of newcomers coming, our newest New Yorkers, welcome them, right? If they're entering and emerging in English proficiency in 12th grade, they might not be the best candidates for this field, right? Because they really need to be able to show proficiency in both languages. So if they students scored an 80 or above on the Common Core ELA region, this is something we will pull that data point for you. Or if they, in their record from the COVID years, have WA waiver in their record, that will give them 1 out of 3 points. They can get another point if they're L's with a 290 or above during NYSSB. If they are on track to complete all their 11th and 12th grade ELA courses with an average of 85, they would get that point. Some students have enough English points from 1A, 1B, and 1C, right? So they don't need to take an assessment, but assessments are an option. An online assessment like the Stamp 4S, I'll show you. I actually linked in the questions an example, a demo of the Stamp assessment. And then we're focusing on this 1E or 2E project, right? So they can do it on the English side. It could be part of an ELA class, part of a global class, part of a science class, for example, where they're doing lots of writing and research. Flexibility and student agency are the big ideas in New York State. We're really excited that we have various pathways to the seal in New York State. Then the world language side, right? So 3 points needed, so 1 point. So if you teach a checkpoint C world language course and students have an 85 average in your checkpoint C course, and on the final exam, they get 1 point. Can anyone define for us what is a checkpoint C course? Here's an example. An advanced placement course is a checkpoint C course. I'm going to just put up this NYS path to proficiency. Okay, the SLP exam that students hopefully take in 8th grade. What does that align to? Checkpoint. Can you hear me? Okay. Okay. Quiet.
Checkpoint A?
Yeah, good. So my big plan is that all students in middle schools take the checkpoint A exam in 8th grade. And if they're in dual language, they could even take checkpoint B by then if they've had a robust dual language experience. But my hope and the citywide hope is that students, by the time they leave middle school, they've already completed checkpoint A. And then middle schools can really focus on getting students ready for the checkpoint B, that Regents-like +1 pathway. We don't really say lote anymore. That is the checkpoint B exam that they could take in 9th or 10th grade usually. And then if students continue studying in the same language where they took and passed the checkpoint B exam, that is checkpoint C. So that includes any advanced placement course. It also includes a pre-AP course. I saw someone write an advanced conversation course. If that is taken after students have passed the checkpoint B exam, that is a checkpoint C course. So just being part of that course and maintaining that 85 average gives them the 2A point. Any questions on this right now? Okay, and this really does show that by checkpoint C, students are able to write and read across different tenses. They are using paragraphs, things like that. So that's the student path to proficiency, and we layered on the checkpoints. Okay. And then, so 2B, you might have some students at your school who have foreign transcripts. That's where the school counselor comes in as part of the process. 2C, if you have students in a home language arts course and they complete those with an 85 average, they would get that point. 2D is that host of different assessments that students can take. Again, that's stamp 4S. We negotiated a rate of $19.90 per student, and not all students need to take this. The AP exam, so if you're teaching an AP Spanish language and culture course, and students pass that with a score of a 4 or a 5, they would get the 2D point. Does anyone know, though, why we want to focus on the 2E project for students in an AP course? We're going to put a lot of energy into talking about why and how you can put that project in your Checkpoint C course. They can get 2 points. Yep, Yadira did it for the first time this year with the seal. Yes, they can get 2 points. And also, we don't want to wait until, so if students are taking AP and AP Spanish in their senior year, right? They take the AP Spanish exam in May. And that means by the time they graduate, they don't know if they actually passed the exam with a 4 or 5. So that means that the students, when they graduate, are candidates for the seal of biliteracy, but they cannot receive the seal or the medal until the scores come in July. And there's always a time a student had a bad day, whatever, that we find out in July that a student did not get the seal of biliteracy they worked so hard for. And also they would need to have taken another point anyway, because even just the class with an 85 average and the exam would only give them 2 points. So the project and the 2A and 2E are the clearest pathway to the seal of biliteracy. Yep, and it does relate to the AP course. So we're focusing on 2A and 2E, right? And we want to celebrate students. So real quickly, it's 9:25. I just want to take a few more minutes. The process for the seal, and we'll have more info sessions on the seal, is that you talk to your team. Schools complete a form by November 20th each year to say, yes, we want to do the seal of biliteracy. And then we will send you that student level data file with all the points I mentioned. If your students as 11th graders, for example, took and passed your Checkpoint C course with an 85, that's great. That will be in that file for you already, which is awesome. And this will help you track progress. And then we will give you an end of year file. And then we have to just, for each student getting the seal of biliteracy, and for your AP Spanish course, for example, every student in your course should work on that project and be candidates for the seal, right? We don't want to pick and choose students. Everyone in your course, everyone in your school should have access to the seal of biliteracy. And then you send the form to me, we send to the state, and then we get you your seal that they get on their diploma, their medal that they get to wear at graduation. I probably have one I can find. And then it will go on their transcript. So the culminating project, that's why we're here, right? So you're all sitting down. There are a few changes to nomenclature to the way we're calling the project. The capstone project is certainly an example that we've had over the years that will be changing to show that we need, we need to show students can speak, read, write, and listen, right? So rubrics are provided for you. They're aligned to actual intermediate high for Spanish, French, German, category 1, 2 languages, and then intermediate mid for category 3, 4 languages like Mandarin and Japanese and Russian, those logographic languages. Student choice in sub-theme or context of interest, and Marisol is going to walk us through that. And then we really suggest to focus on units 1 or 2 because that's what you're already teaching in the fall when you launch this project. And so you may have heard about the project in the past that it had 4 parts. We are really, and I appreciate Marisol saying that, I really think it's going to be easier this year. It's going to have 3 parts, right? And part C has 2 parts to it, but part A, a personal essay, presentational writing. Can they write about their own experience? Can they write in paragraphs? Can they use connective devices, right? connecting to the theme that they've chosen. Part B is research, annotated bibliography. This gets students to, we can assess that students could understand what they're reading, interpretive reading, to understand, interpret, and analyze. Then can they summarize information, synthesize information in an annotated bibliography? Then that research they do, they're going to use in two ways, right? That research they do and the way they synthesize their personal essay and their research is going to be a third part called Part C. This is when they do an oral presentation, presentational speaking, and then they have to ask and answer questions, which is interpersonal communication. The panel for Part C needs to have 2 adult speakers of the language who are proficient in the language. It can't be a relative of the student, right? So if you're the teacher who's acting as an advisor, there would also be 1 or hopefully even 2 other people proficient in the language to help assess Part C presentation. So these are the parts. We're removing and updating all the documents, removing reference to parts 1, 2, 3, and 4, because it's parts A, B, and C. Yes. Yep, thank you. So Marisol, your turn.
Thank you, Jill. Before we move to my part, would
Yes.
you mind answering a question, or we leave it in, like, if the school can start?
Yeah, that's always an interesting model for me when I hear that schools don't offer world languages starting in 9th grade, right? So we can talk more about programming. Could you offer a 9th grade sequence? But yes, absolutely. Your students, even if you don't offer Spanish till 10th grade, yes, they can start then.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. When I taught AP Spanish, I did it we had a program from 6 to 12, so we did it in 10th grade. But they took the heritage speakers, they took or the more advanced, not only heritage, took it in 10th grade because they finished they took the AP there. Okay, so thank you everyone for being here. We know that is your vacation, and I really appreciate having cameras on again. I'm very insistent in that because it's super lovely to see each other, but if you cannot, we understand. So what we're going, can you put in the chat, if you have taught the AP, just can you put yes to see more or less how many you have taught the AP? Just put yes to see the amount, to understand. Okay, so we have 5, 6, 7. ¿Cuántos hay, Jill? Se me perdió. Okay.
Many, and a few no's, so they're learners too.
Okay. So I'm going to start with basics that people that have taught the AP might know, but bear with me, and I'm going to try to make sure that everybody, no matter your background, understands. So I'm going to show some slides, talk about them, and then ask questions, and then we will go to a breakup, okay? And I will ask you if you have questions. If you have questions, to put them in. I will not address them now in the chat. I will give a space after some slides if you have questions about what I taught, okay? So everybody's with me. So the word language, and you know that the AP word language and culture courses we have as you might know, in Chinese, French, German, Italian, Japanese, and Spanish. Something important to notice is the French, German, Italian, and Spanish have the same blueprint since 2019. Before that, it wasn't like that. But since 2019, they have the same blueprint. Who can say out loud, what does it mean that they have the same blueprint? Who can guess? Doesn't matter that try to guess. What is the
same expectations, the same assessments.
Yes, exactly, Ines, the same expectations, the same structure, the same learning objectives, exactly the same. So the only thing that changes, and we will see, are some of the sub-themes and the language, okay? But to train somebody to proctor a test, these are exactly the same. The same sections, exactly the same. That is important to notice if you have other languages in your school. So There are 6 required themes: families and communities, personal and public identities, beauty and aesthetics, science and technology, contemporary life, global challenges. Who can tell me which of those, which are the 2 that you think that are kind of the easiest topic? I don't know if the easiest, but the more easy for somebody that is learning, that is not a heritage of native speakers.
I would
Family and community.
Families and communities, yeah.
Yeah, family and communities. And another one that you think that can be easy, just to that they will have already vocabulary, they're not natives. Miguel?
Personal and public identities.
Yes, exactly, the first 2. Perfect, great. So when students come to the course, if they always, when you have heritage speakers and native speakers, that is is a good exception, but we need to think in not Spanish, still 100% proficient students. And obviously, if they have 3 years before, as Jill taught before, they will come for in a 4th year here, they will already have seen more families and communities and personal public identities. They would have covered everything, but they will know more because it's something more personal, direct to you, okay? So the interesting thing is that in the past, when we taught, remember how the books were before, the textbooks, or the books that are still there, but they're kind of updated, have not been revised with the new way of teaching, that we have each chapter was one theme, right? And the other thing, here there's a different vision that we have, right? And since 2019, each unit targets a primary theme, but also connects to additional themes. So if you thought, that's what I was asking somebody, when did you get trained? Because before, you know, even if you use the book temas, you have like, this is one topic, 2 is a different topic, 3rd is a 3rd topic. Now the course and SCAM description is different, okay? Teaching to multiple themes in every unit ensures a rich curriculum that will spiral as the themes are revisited through a variety of lenses throughout the course. You want the topics to be revisited. You don't want just to teach them one and then in May you never, you know, in April you don't cover it anymore. That is not real life. All the things are interconnected. So, as again, there's one basic like main theme, but I'm going to give you an example with AP Spanish. So here are the 6 themes. So for example, in unit 1, what do you see? Which is the main theme? Who can tell me what is the main theme in unit 1 for AP Spanish?
Family and communities.
Great, but so family, that is covered, right? But the same unit also covers personal and public identities, also cover contemporary life, and also covers global and challenges, okay? So that is important to know. That is not only one theme by unit. That is a different thing from before. So now we are going to talk, everybody's with me. Can you show me with your hands? Everybody's following? Thank you for my check for understanding. Okay, good. So now those are the themes. Now we are going to go with the context. The context are the sub-themes, right? But we call them context. So within each one, the themes are the same for all the APs. Chinese, Japanese, German, French, Spanish, I forget one, or Italian. But what changes are the context. So in each language, there are 5 to 7 recommended contexts, and depends on the context. Why do you think that the sub-themes would change from one language to another? Any idea? Anybody can try to think why they won't be exactly the same?
Culture.
Exactly, they're different cultures, so they cannot be exactly the same. Exactly, culture. Gracias. Okay, so we created a wonderful document that Jill will share with you, in which appears each one of the units. I'm showing the Spanish one. So in the left side is the unit, and according to the language, you have the context. Okay. You remember that Jill was saying that you want to select like themes and context for the project. So here you have the examples, very specific examples, okay? And depends on the language. So you have for example, the second, you have many of the contexts are similar, but not all, okay? Everybody's fine? Can you show me with your hands? Gracias, okay. So this document can be very useful for you in the minute that you select with the student, like let us select context. Well, here you have themes and context. So we suggested to focus on unit 1 or 2 to align to the themes they may be covering class, right? But again, if you have native or heritage students, they can maybe talk about any topic, and maybe your students also. So you want to do an assessment at the beginning of the year to know what they know, to see what can be better. But we suggest this, and I will explain you the logic. So the course and exam description has 5, 6 units. We said that in each unit, there's a basic thing that is like families, identity, etc. But we also cover the other sub-themes that are in black, right? The blue is the main theme. So I'm going to suggest you, this is just suggestion, you can do it however you want, as suggesting pacing guide, okay? If anybody has seen the AP for All curriculum from the past, I used to provide pacing guides for every day, okay? But I'm just suggesting in general terms for this year. So I suggest, or we suggest AP for All, a preliminary unit in which you introduce what you're going to teach. Then you can also introduce a little bit the seal and get the kids very excited. You want to get to know them as well, right? It's a time to get to know them. You cannot just start with the topic. So that's around 9 days. Then for each unit, if you use 18 days for each unit, you will be perfect. And then you will have time for test prep. So that will be around October. And then unit 2, you will finish around November 12th, the most. If you have heritage, you will probably do it before, okay? So if you think in that, which are the 2 units that are covering the time? Unit 1 and unit 2, around that, okay? Usually unit 3 ends at the end of December. In December ends the 3rd unit, okay? So if you see the units, those are themes and those are the, those are themes and those are the contexts for unit 1. What do you think about those contexts? Anybody that has not talked, are difficult, are something achievable for them? What do you think? Anybody wants to, like customs and values, education and community, family structure? There's something that is about their own life, right? So it's something easier than something more abstract. So this is the suggestion to use those themes, but you don't need to use them necessarily. But our suggestion is to use those themes and contexts to select from. Again, if somebody wants to do contemporary global challenges or contemporary lives, they're also covered before, but they are more abstract, okay? So yes, Rebecca, you want to assess your kids or see their interest before talking about this. Yes, totally, see where they are, okay? Let me know with a hand if you think that you understood the main idea of how to connect the AP themes with the project, if you think you understood more or less or nada. Can you show me? I would like everyone, please, with your hands. Okay, I see some kind of, So Miguel, can you tell me, or Miguel, sorry for putting you on the spot, or anybody else, why is like hehe and not aha?
I'm not really sure what the project is. I do know the units I taught AP. These are pretty simple.
Okay.
They're available to the students,
Yes.
but what exactly is the project?
The project, they will write a personal narrative about a theme. They will write a personal narrative, their connections with the theme.
Yeah, I get it. And it's very achievable. It's not
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect, great. It's a personal narrative about the personal experience with one of those contexts. That's why something perfect, great. Okay, so let us go now. So we covered the first part, and now we are going to do something we only did it yesterday that can be useful for every one of us. That is connect the rubrics of the seal with the rubrics with the AP. So Jill, you want to talk about this, right? This is your, so I need to stop.
Well, can you just keep sharing for a sec?
Sure.
Yeah, so essentially, thank you. The big idea is, again, the project, the culminating project worth 2 points, needs to show that students can read, write, speak, and listen. So the big piece, and really to start them into the process, is to have them pick that sub-theme, that context of interest to them, and to write about it. What's their personal connection to it? So we focus on the blue functions of the standards. And intermediate high, that green column, is required for category 1 and 2. So students in their part A personal essay will write about themselves, narrate experiences, present information about their own life and experiences related to that context that they chose. They may have a viewpoint they're supporting, and these are familiar topics as they're writing their part A personal essay. And they use a variety of tenses, right? That is the marker for intermediate high writing. And then, so this rubric and this green column is what's required for part A. And then the same rubric is used for the part C presentation. That's presentational speaking. And when they get to part C, they're synthesizing their research. So that's where, on a variety of familiar, concrete, and research topics, they can write about what they've researched. And so if Marisol, you'll just go, yep. And so that's intermediate low, which is maybe where your students are starting. Intermediate low is aligned to checkpoint C, right? Checkpoint C is intermediate low to mid. So if they've taken the checkpoint B assessment, they should be able at intermediate mid when they start your class.
Okay, great. So this is the essay. Somebody asked if there are any assessment for the beginning of the year. If you want AP possible assessment, write directly to me, okay? Because we cannot talk about that here, we don't have it. So this is the research. Jill, you want to talk about it?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't see you change the slide. So part B research, right? So after they write their personal essay, and that is, we will talk about it, but that part A is not on demand. They are doing drafting and revising, working with peers, things like that. After they complete part A, they're then guided to do research within that theme and context. So we're asking students to show that they understood and interpreted what they read by doing research and then completing an annotated bibliography, which asks them to summarize and the sources. So in, again, looking at that green column, intermediate high, which is the requirement, they can follow the main idea, the main message, follow the flow of events. They can understand different time frames that the source is written in, and they're reading, their sources that they're finding are paragraph length text. It could be an audio file, it could be a video where they're speaking in paragraphs and it's pretty detailed. And then they are summarizing that. So again, we're focusing on intermediate high expectations for this. And the project, the part B is, again, that's really focused on summarizing and really talking about the credibility of the resources. And then when they get to the AP exam, that argumentative essay is actually requiring more synthesis. And then part C of the project is also requiring synthesis, which is more conceptually complex. And then, yep, that last piece is the second part of part C after they've done their oral presentation. Oral defense, this is interpersonal communication. Can they ask and answer questions, right? So they'll be asked questions from the members of the assessment panel, those adults proficient in the language. Can they exchange information? Can they describe their process? Can they describe their viewpoint on this topic? Can they talk about the comparison between the community they researched and their own experience? So they're going to be able to ask and answer questions on a variety of familiar, concrete, and again, research topics. And then when they're speaking and when they're answering questions, they're speaking in connected sentences, right? Not just like this, for example. They're able to speak very easily there. So it's spontaneous, right? They don't know the questions you're going to ask. And that shows interpersonal communication.
Thank you, Jill.
Yeah,
So
thank
now
you.
we are going to do something very fun, and we are going to send you to breakup rooms. So we are going to make the connection with the AP scoring guidelines and this guide, right? And these rubrics. So just a reminder of what Jill said, the part A, that is a personal essay, which they write about their connection with one of the themes or one of the contexts, right? Theme context. And the oral presentation, when they present what all the work they have done, are presentational communication. Why presentational communication? Who can remind us what is presentational communication and why writing a personal essay or giving a presentation would be presentational communication? Anybody that has not spoken before that would like to tirarse a los leones?
Es algo que se ha preparado antes.
Right. Great, thank you. It's something that has been prepared beforehand, right? That is great. And that is a very important part, because for this, they will have the time to prepare. Not always presentational communication, it has time to prepare, yes, but this project, they will have probably more time than the AP, that is an exam that they need to do on demand, right? But it's something that you prepare. And another important thing is it's a one-way communication. The way is from you to somebody or to a group. It's not a two-way communication like interpersonal, okay? So we are going to, Jill showed the rubric. Now we are going to compare it to the two parts, the two tasks, AP tasks that are presentational communication. One is the argumentative essay, that is the written presentational communication, and the cultural comparison, that is the oral presentational communication. If you are dizzy at this point and say, why did I come to this? I'm so lost. Don't worry. When you go to the breakup rooms, you will understand more. Let us remind to everyone that knows and explain to, if you have not told the AP, that the AP has 6 tasks, 2 multiple choice, 2 free response, and we are going to talk the personal essay aligns to the argumentative essay, right? Sorry, I'm so sorry, my screen I'm presenting in a laptop. Okay, the argumentative essay, okay? So that is the connection. So the argumentative essay in the AP, let us start with an example. The topic essay of 2024. Should college education be free for everyone? That was the topic. So what happens in the AP is that they are giving 3 sources. It's not that they can select the topic and they can write about the topic they select about their personal experience, like the seal, but here they're giving the topic. That is the topic, that's it. Also, they're giving 3 sources. One is a reading text, the other is a graphic table visual text, and the other is a listening text, okay? Sorry, for the seal of biliteracy, you could use a reading text when the kid selects text. They can select when they need to do the part B, that is a research, they can select reading text of that level and listening text. We are not going to include graphic table and visual because they can be too short. In this case, it does not really work so well, okay? But for the AP, you need, for the essay, you need to use the 3 they're giving to you. Usually the reading and the listening text have different opinions of the same topic, points of view, and usually the audio can go to both sides. Something important is that the AP, you need to make a synthesis of the sources. To get a 5 or a 4, you need to make a synthesis, not a summary. Anybody can explain the difference of a summary and a synthesis? No se peleen, uno a la vez. If I have 3 sources, source 1, 2, and 3, and I'm doing a summary of those sources, what would I do? If I'm doing a synthesis, what would I do? Anybody?
A summary restates information while a synthesis combines information from different or multiple sources.
Exactly, right? So for the seal, the first part, the personal essay, you just talk about a topic, right? Then when you need to do the research, you're going to talk about between 3 and 5 sources. That will be a summary, right? Exactly what Miguel said. This source says this, source 2 says this, blah, blah, blah. But then when they're presenting at the end of the year, sorry, at the end of the year, at the end, the oral presentation, they might combine everything, okay? But in the AP, it's totally synthesis. You need to prepare them for that, okay? So, so that was the argumentative essay, okay? So again, the argumentative essay, we can connect it somehow with the personal essay that is part A. ¿Estamos bien? ¿Me pueden poner con la mano? Yes? Great, thank you. Let's go to the second part. So now is the oral presentation communication. With what do you think that we can connect it? With which task? Anybody that has taught the AP or not has taught? Somebody that has not taught?
The oral presentation is done in the cultural comparison part.
Cultural comparison, perfect, great, excellent. So let us move. The cultural comparison, and I'm not going to go in details because I wanted to send you to breakup rooms. The cultural comparison will, you need to compare any Spanish speaking or depends on the language, target language speaking community, or with your own community or with any other community, okay? And it's very difficult to do because they give you the topic and then you need to compare those communities. You have 4 minutes to prepare and 2 minutes to record it. Okay, it's difficult, right, Natasha?
Yes.
Muy difícil. I don't know if I would do it. How would I do? I hope I get a 5 and not a 4. Okay, anyway, so let us go back and we are going to do the breakup rooms. Okay, so we are going to connect the part A and part B rubric that Jill show and walk us through. That is here. We are going to compare it with the, Jill, how are we going to do the groups?
So I have it in the chat, but we'll only have 5 breakout rooms, I think, because there are only 15 people. And
okay.
so, yep. So
okay.
1 through 3 focus on the essay and 4 and 5 focus on the comparison.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to just anyway include here I'm going to give you here. Jill has it. You can find it
in the chat. Everyone can just click on that, and rooms 1, 2, and 3. When we open the breakout rooms, you'll focus on that first page, first one.
Perfect. So group 1, 2, and 3, just Jill, essay. Yeah.
Yes, because I'll have 5 rooms.
Perfect. Yeah. Group 1, 2, and 3 are going to take the rubric that you will have the handout, and they're going to compare it with the argumentative essay rubric. Why I put 3, 4, and 5? Any question? Why I didn't, the scores are from 1 to 5. Why I put only 3, 4, and 5? Any volunteer to tell me?
Because it's really hard to get a 1.
Bonnie, can you tell me more about that?
Yesterday when I did the AP training, the moderator said that it was very difficult to get a 1 because like even if you put some information down, you would like fall into a 2. So I guess that's why there's no 1s or 2s.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes, yes, and also yes. totally. And I'm glad that you are going to the training. And also for the following. The passing score, you remember for the New York seal, Jill told you that it's in the intermediate high. You have to have those
Yes.
outcomes, right? And if you have advanced low, even better, but it's not required. Yes? And the passing scores for the AP are 3, 4, and 5. That's why I put only 3, 4, and 5. If a kid get a 3, that are credits for any college in general, and 4 and 5 for Ivy Leagues. Okay? So group 1, 2, and 3, they're going to go to breakout rooms and you're going to discuss in groups which connections you see. Any connections, similarities, comparison, what alike connections do you see there? Okay? Trying to find specifically connections. Hopefully things that are similar or different. So groups 1, 2, and 3. So compare the rubrics from presentation communication with the scoring guidelines from the argumentative essay that will be in page 2. Then the group, instead of 6 and 10, will be groups 4 and 5. We'll compare it with the cultural comparison.
Okay.
Okay? Who can?
In the rooms?
Yes, and so we are going to go and you have 10 minutes.
Yep.
And anybody needs to clarification or you're fine? Okay, so just follow the task and groups 1, 2, and 3 essay and the others cultural comparison. Thank you.
Yep. So, yep. Okay, so I'm opening the rooms. You should get a blue pop-up. Please click on the blue pop-up. So Bonnie, Jeanette, Livia, AR, Diomatis, Libya, you're all working on the essay. Yep. Bye.
Voy a mover a Miguel, Jill, para el 5, ¿ok?
Okay, yeah. Perfecto.
So this
Yadira was supposed to be in. Yadira, what happened to her? She was supposed to be in Cinco, but maybe oh, there she is. I'll move her to group 3. She's on her iPhone.
So I think that we need to change group 1, 2, and 3. It's like groups, essay groups, like something. Anyway, doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's just today though. So
Yeah.
yesterday was a much bigger group, huh? A lot of people didn't make it though. They registered for it.
Some of them have the AP trainings yesterday.
I
and the
know.
day before.
I thought we didn't conflict with that.
It did, but at this point, I saw you had it another day, but then when you put it, I thought people can go, and I think they changed. I just think they had it before. I think they had it the first day, Tuesday, Wednesday. No, doesn't matter.
Okay, cool. Recording.
Welcome, everyone. Is everyone here? I think we are, right?
Yep, 15.
Okay, so thank you so much for being here. We hope you had a very productive conversation. So can somebody from the one person from the first 3 groups mention any connection that you saw between the rubrics? One person, please, from groups 1 or 2 or 3.
In our group, we talked about how so like there's more opportunities with the biliteracy rubric because it's more condensed. So we have intermediate, high, and advanced low in comparison to the AP where there are 3 different ones, 3, 4, and 5. So I feel like this gives like a more, like if you're intermediate high, it could be like a 4 or 5, but if it's advanced low, it's like a 3 and a 4. And it's like more straightforward, like it is asking the same from the students, but it's more like straightforward, like it's looking for the same skills and the same, like pretty much it's like more summarized, but it gives more opportunities for students to do well. And yeah, so we thought like it was more, like it's easier to read and for students to understand as well. Even for like, as an educator, I look at the rubric and I'm like, oh, this is exactly what we need. Because looking at the rubric at the AP, like I have to read so many checkpoints and that's a lot of things to internalize and unpack and understand like this is what my students need to do in order to achieve this. So it feels much manageable.
Thank you, Bonnie. And I think that is great because what you're saying exactly that this is a great scaffold to the AP, right? Because here a passing score is a 3 or a 4, and the AP is 2, like 3, 4, 5 is much more complex, but this is an excellent scaffold at the beginning of the year. So once they do that, when you use the other rubrics, they already have some language, they already have a certain level. So perfect, great, sounds good. Thank you. That is a great conclusion. Anybody that can talk about the cultural comparison?
In our group 4, we came to the conclusion the same as the other group, that the rubric was simpler. It has 2 columns rather than 3. They don't have as many details. And also another thing that we notice is that have colors, that is easier for a student to understand what was going on with a color code, especially those with IPs, etc.
Thank you, Ines. Great. Something of the colors, the rubrics, Jill put the colors or I put the colors. So you can do the same in the AP. They are not in colors, but when I taught the AP, I did put the colors. Or you can also do it like edit, okay? So let me show you my findings that, so first of all, just for you don't need to memorize it, but usually for you to compare what is the AP, that is right at the end of the year. So the AP, usually when students get a 3 in the AP, they have a level considered that is called intermediate mid. When they have a 4 in the AP, usually it is an intermediate high. That is the level that is requiring the seal, right? And then when they have a 5, it's called like intermediate high plus, close to advanced low. This is just for a reference, but we are going to go with the scores now. So let us see the findings that first of all, it's much easier to read, obviously. Okay, and I think it's a great scaffold to start the beginning of the year before you overwhelm the kids with all this rubric, right? So the first thing that I saw is that level 3, for example, in terms of presenting the position, have some coherence. For level 4, clarity with coherence, and level 5, high degree of clarity, right? So after you have worked
Marisol,
yes.
we see the debrief slide only.
Okay, thank you for letting me know. Because
yeah. Great.
Thank you, Jill, because that is terrible when you're presenting. Okay, so here was the scale that I showed you before, just for you to have a comparison, just to know, yeah, but really let us go to this. So let us talk about one of the points of the AP score. When you're talking about presenting your own position, right? Because the essay in the seal is just your own position, because it's your own experience, is simpler, right? In the AP, obviously, they give you a topic and you need to put 3 sources together. It's much more complex. So to get a 3, that is a passing score in any school, not Ivy League, you have to present it with some coherence, with clarity, with coherence, and then high degree of clarity when it's for a 5, okay? In terms of the organization, for level 3, some limited use, some organization. Then in number 2, some effective use. And then in number 5 is effective use. Something good to notice that here they talk about transitional elements of cohesive device, that even though it's not in the rubric explicitly like that, right? It's a good point to start working with from the beginning, right? So that shows us that that should be included also when we're practicing with the kids in the seal. Then in terms of the sentences, if you see, for here intermediate high, they're asking using short paragraphs, right? That can be kind of a 4 here. Most paragraph length discourse. I think that the 3 is kind of a 4 in the IP, right? And then, sorry. And then in terms of the grammar, to get a 3, some control, general control for 4, and accuracy and variety. So I will say that in general, The difference is that the AP seems like a little bit more demanding, but it's kind of the 3 of the seal. Looks like the 4 in the AP. That is exactly intermediate high. Okay, that is exactly intermediate high because a 3 is intermediate mid and a 4 is intermediate high. So, and the big difference is like the time of the seal is self-paced. The kids write, the kids are going to write the narrative whenever they can, or they do it in class, but they can correct. But think that the AP is on demand. They have 40 minutes, so they need to do, it's considered a draft because they cannot correct it. And in terms of complexity, it's much easier, obviously, much more easy, more simple, the seal, because it's a personal connection with a thing. And the argumentative essay, they throw you 3 sources from a topic that you have not selected. So this is a really, what I want to point here is that it's a really good scaffold, right? Can be totally good scaffold, okay? And then let us go to the next one, and then I will give the word to Jill. So in terms of the cultural comparison, let us see the cultural comparison. So in number 3, when you talk the cultural comparison, is few supporting details. Then in 4 is some supporting details. And then in 5 is supporting details and relevant examples. The organization is the same as the essay. In terms of the register, that has to be a formal register, right? In number 4 is consistent, appropriate for the presentation, number 4, and maybe inappropriate sometimes in number 3. And something that I suggest you is to take a look at the conversation tips in the appendix, because there you will see, you want to train them from the beginning, already for the seal, how to use academic language to communicate, right? And the control is the same. So again, what I see at least is that the intermediate high here, right, corresponds kind of to a 4. That is the intermediate high of the AP. So it does correspond, and the advanced low would be kind of the 5. Let us remember also that they are very different contexts. The students have, I put it self-paced preparation, because the students can prepare their presentation all the time they want. Here they have 4 minutes to prepare and 2 minutes to deliver. So it's much more demanding. And finally, the complexity, because the seal is related to parts A and B. They did part A, personalize it. They did part B, in which they research, and then they need to do a presentation. They have worked already the topic, right? So they have a lot of things to say about it. But in the AP, they just se tiran a los leones, as we say in Chile, throwing to the lions, right? They assign them a topic, and they have 4 minutes to prepare, and they need to record it on the spot. So again, the seal is a great tool to prepare. It's a great scaffold for the complexity of the AP. Okay, so that is from my part. I just want to show you to end. The core skills from the AP are comprehend the text, make connections, 3, interpret text, 4, making meanings, 5, speak to others, write to others, 6, present orally, 7, present in writing. And if you see, part A and part B, present orally and present in writing, are aligned to skills 7 and 8. Then if you go to the research, to the interpretive, the research part, it is like 1 is related to 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then finally, the oral presentation, when they ask questions, right? After they present, they ask questions. And the oral presentation is speak to others. So I know that is a lot, but I hope that we will send you all this, so don't worry. Don't worry, Inés, we will send you this. So she was taking screenshots. So you see that it's a real scaffold, and you can dig in more, and there's a total relationship. So it's a great scaffold to take you to the rubrics. It's a great kind of first step, okay? Jill, es tu your turn. Thank you so much for your attention.
Yes, thanks. So I'm going to, we have a very experienced coordinator here today, but I wanted to quickly just show you one more slide. Thank you, Marisol. Walking through all of that. There's one slide that kind of just talks about like, what's the supposed timeline, right? What's the sample timeline? And again, if you've done the seal before, you know that you may not have started the project until the spring. That would really put students in a crunch. So we wanted to show you kind of a sample timeline to get students to complete the project prior to the stress or getting ready for the AP exam. So this is something, this will be updated in the toolkit, but essentially schools are signing on and you're telling your school about the seal, getting them to sign on, setting up your committee in September, October. By November 20th, you're signing on. But you can now look at the rubrics, right? And go over them with your team, go over them with students, decide on the themes and the context, right? For this project, have them start with their personal essay in October, and then they're completing it. Again, this is a peer, this is a drafted and revision process. So they are going with peers, they're getting feedback from you as the teacher, things like that. Ideally, they would complete part A by November, then you're transitioning on to part B. All these things are to say that your students can be completed with the project by February, by March, by April, for example. But we want to hear from Maria Quintanilla, who's here, a very experienced coordinator who's embedded the SEAL project into her course for many years. So Maria.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Jill. Thank you, Marisol. So I'm the coordinator, but I'm also the classroom teacher. So on top of teaching my AP class, I have to do the seal of biliteracy, and I have to coordinate with the panel, and I have to communicate with my district person. So it's a lot of things to do. So as any teacher, I think our greatest fear is time, right? Time management. And what? You want me now to do a project on top of everything else that I'm doing, and there is no per session for me? So I have, as a teacher who's like a comprometida, I will make sure my students get the seal of biliteracy, whether I get per session or not. So I have been able to incorporate the project into my class. So it's part of the class. All of my students in the class do this project. They get a grade for their third marking period. And this is how I do it. I start the talking about it every day almost in September. So by the time we start the project, the kids know that this is what we're doing, right? I don't just come out of the blue in October and say, okay, we're going to start part 1 or part A of the seal of biliteracy. You know, that's not how I do it. So when after I've covered 2 themes of the AP class and we're in the middle of the 3rd theme, that's when we select as a class which of the 3 themes we're going to focus on. After the kids choose via Google form, then I make sure that they choose the same day that they choose the context, because as you know, each theme in the AP class course has 6 contexts. So that very same day. And that day, I also do a mini lesson on what are the questions. I translate the question from English to Spanish or from whatever language you're teaching, I guess. The rubric is translated from English to whatever language you're teaching. And that day, that night, the students start their personal narrative. One thing that goes in my favor is that by middle of October, they have written 2 essays for me already for the AP class. So they already know, I know their style of writing by October because they've written already 2 essays. Also, because they're seniors, they have been going through the college application progress. And in the college application progress, they have to write a personal statement. So they already know what a personal narrative is. So I don't spend too much time teaching that, but I give them time so that I assign it on a Wednesday night so that they have Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to complete their personal narrative. And on Monday, they hand it in to me. They do write it on paper. And they hand it in on paper because the essays that they write on the AP classes on paper, right? Like they write their essays on paper. So they write it on paper. I collect it on Monday. I give myself 1 week to review everything, and I continue teaching my class like normal, and and then I return it to them. Then the second draft, they can do it on a Google Doc, but they have to still hand in the first draft that they wrote. And I give myself about 2 to 3 weeks for that first part to be done. The second part is the bibliography, an annotated bibliography. And of course, I show my students model samples from years past so that they can have an idea. And then the bibliography, the same thing. I don't just tell them, okay, part 2 of the project is to do a bibliography, right? No, I teach them how to do a bibliography, how to set it up, how to quote, how to do all these things within my lessons. And it's nothing new to them because it's a project that the themes in the AP courses are interlaced, right? So they're not taught in isolation. So it makes sense for them to be working on this project. So I give them until, let's say, Martin Luther King Day, and then I use my January Regents Week when I'm only proctoring and I'm not teaching. That's the week that I give myself to go over the bibliography, grade it, communicate with my students because they're not taking classes that week. So they're working on the Seal Biliteracy project. We communicate during that week via comments on the Google Doc, and so I'm done. But I give myself on purpose that week of the Regents Week in January to grade the second part of the seal of the project, which is the bibliography. I want to make sure that that the sources are okay, that they're in Spanish in my case. And then I start, because I am the coordinator, I plan with the teachers who are going to be watching and evaluating with me when the kids can start presenting. And I create a calendar. The kids sign up for a day and for a time and date that they can present. And the first day of the second semester, like the spring semester, that February class, the first day, they sign up and they already start thinking about how they're going to share their findings to the panel. And I always make sure that I give myself a week. I always make sure that I set up my students for success by translating some of the instructions and the rubric for my students who may be newcomers as well that you may have in your class, and by providing feedback. Every time they rewrite something, it has to be based on the feedback that I provide. So, and then they get a grade for the third marking period class for my Energy Tech High School marking period as well. So it's not something extra for the students or for myself. So yeah, that's how I do how I incorporate the project into my class.
Thank you, Maria. We really appreciate it. And if you all, we just want to quickly close up. It's 10:31. But as I put in the chat, Maria's describing her pacing. She does have heritage and native speakers. So they also might have some context that other students might not have. But again, when students get to that level, they all have a really advanced level of proficiency. So we'll do well on the project. She has a sample checklist with some templates. We will share that with you. And next steps to get started, you have access to these, the toolkit, the info hub page. Really think about which colleagues will support you in the process. To sign on by November 20th, you officially need 5 people on your committee. It needs to be a world languages teacher, ELA teacher, ENL teacher, 1 administrator, and 1 school counselor. So although I would really recommend in September you're talking to your team and signing on so that your students can get started. And lots of different resources. So we want to go back just modeling what we do with our students. We started with objectives for the class. Can you articulate what the seal is? What the seal of biliteracy is? Yes, thumbs up. Okay. Do you know about the criteria and different pathways for students to achieve the seal? Yay, yes, yay. And then understand the requirements for students to successfully complete. I should capitalize the 1E or 2E, but hopefully you saw the connections. I will say also that again, on here, there were some questions. I answered some of them. We'll send a follow-up email with the resources and slides, but I will put it in the chat right now, and I'll send a follow-up email. But all the resources are in this folder, NYSSB project tiny URL. And when you click on that folder, it will take you to, there's a PDF of the slides right here, our questions, and then that path to proficiency chart, and then these other resources that Marisol shared, including transition words for success on the AP exam, things like that. So thank you. I did take notes. If anyone who's here right now, I did capture your attendance, which is great. I hope you all go back to your schools and talk about this. And then Marisol and I will stay on until 11 if you have questions, because I know quite a few came up yesterday. And we're going to add in some exemplars. Things are here for you. I don't know questions that were added today. The pros of obtaining the biliteracy seal in contrast to a regular diploma. Would anyone who's experienced in this like to speak to that? This is so much more than a regular diploma. I mean, it's something to definitely put on their resume, on their LinkedIn profile as they're applying for internships, and they will. I mean, there are tons of cases of students, and a coordinator, Elizabeth Ferreira, who's also a parent, she said her daughter was told she absolutely got the job because she was multilingual, and she's making more money than the other nurses at her place, at her hospital. And so this is, I announced Multilingualism NYC. We know that multilingualism is preferred in 9 out of 10 job environments, and we have been able to get concrete college credit, at least at SUNY's, at CUNY's. SUNY's are next, and then some individual colleges give it as well. It is valuable in the workforce, colleges, technical careers. Yeah. OPI levels in the workplace. I don't know if you've ever seen this. The project does not need to be done in both languages, by the way. I saw that question. So this is just an example of oral proficiency levels in the workplace. So you are certifying students. How many times have we gone to parties or any sort of situation, you say what you do, people say, oh, I took 1 year or 5 years of Spanish, and all I can do is like order a water or a beer or something like that. And really just thinking about our students are graduating with a verified level of proficiency that they can highlight. And so intermediate high, they're able to do these things. They'd be well positioned to get these sort of jobs. And then if they continue in the language, they'll be able to get some more jobs using those languages. Yes, will do.
I was thinking, Jill, that you remember that if you have a preliminary uni where you can really, this can be very, very cool to show to your students, you know, and the importance of, you know, having the seal too, so you can attest that you have that level. So that would be really cool.
Yes. So I know Yadira had a question. Students would not need to do the seal, they would not need to do the project in both languages unless they need the points, right? So again, most students are dependent, even if they take the AP class with an 85 and they pass the AP exam, that's still only 2 points and they need 3, which is why students are doing the project on the world language side. But on the English side, they might not need to do the 1E project. They might have enough points from 1A, 1B, 1C, or they took an AP English exam. That's worth 1D point. So they may not need to do on both sides. Other questions? Yeah, do you want to take a picture?
When we finish this.
Okay, I'll stop sharing my screen. So thank you, we're done. Again, you can pop off, or if you have questions, you can stay on.
I'm going to take a picture. So I'm going to say if you can turn the camera. Yeah, Yeah, if you can turn the camera.
It's
Look at me. I have my metallic, you see? So I
Awesome.
will say 1, 2, 3.